Want more of me? Who doesn't? Subscribe to the Volume YouTube channel today. All right, let's start with this. McVay cracks me up. He's not like 6'5", but Jesus, does he fill a room out? He's got all that alpha. And I think I'm kind of fascinated with him. I can't take my eyes off him. He's got so much energy. And when you first met him, just give me your first reaction you're a big, tall, strapping quarterback in the NFL. And this McVay dude is he's like Red Bull in slacks and a golf shirt. Like, what was your first impression of him?
Yeah, the first time I actually ever met him was actually through one of our coaches, our tight end coach, pass game coordinator out here now, a guy named Brian Angelico. I was my first year coaching in Cleveland, and he said, "Hey, there's this guy I want you to meet. I think you guys would hit it off. His name's Sean McVay. He just became the coordinator of the Washington football team." And I said, "You know what? I've heard of that guy before. Didn't he used to coach in Tampa?" And kind of our paths had never crossed. And then we actually played them in the preseason. Kirk Cousins, Robert Griffin III, Colt McCoy battling it out for those guys to see who was going to start. But I spent about 15, 20 minutes with them on the field before the game, and was just blown away by exactly what you're talking about: energy, confidence, just a lot of positive energy coming out of Sean McVay. And then over the course of the years, our relationship really grew. We caught up in the off seasons, and then before you know it, the phone rings late in 2019, and he was offering me a chance to go out there and coach with them. And best thing to ever happen to me in my coaching career was getting a chance to be around him for 2 years, be his right-hand man, and really get to learn, kind of people want to call it, the secret sauce or see behind the curtain, but really what it is just an incredible work ethic, incredible culture that he builds on a daily basis. And ultimately, not only just with the players, but with the coaches as well. And everybody in that building is moving in the right direction, serving and trying to be the best version of themselves, not for any selfish purpose, but to help the guy next to them do their jobs at a high level. And when that happens, Colin, it's a special thing, and had a forever impact on me.
The only thing I ever worried about Sean was burnout. He's so intense. Yeah. He's not a guy that half-asses anything. You can just tell. I don't care if you're playing golf. You could tell that guy is fighting you to the last.
It's why he doesn't play golf, because he's not good enough, and it's not moving fast enough for him. So he chooses not to play, even though his dad's a pretty good player.
But he, Kevin, it feels like in the last year or two, he has come to terms with, hey, I got to balance this stuff out a little bit. And I think that's incredible at his age. I didn't have the ability or the self-awareness to do that. I was a workaholic, and then one day it hit me. I was exhausted. But it is tough in your position. You can grind yourself. I see some of these coaches, they put on weight. They look like presidents. After 8 years, they look like hell. Do you think about that? Like, you want to have a quality of life and be a great coach?
Yeah, I do, because I watched it firsthand, and I'd like to think I was right there with him most days. But he's an incredibly early riser. He gets there awfully early. It's kind of had that effect on me. People around here calling me crazy, and I said, "You guys haven't seen anything." This guy had beaten me to the office by an hour or two, even when I get in. So I've seen it. I have seen it. Over the course of a season, there's just no way. And he'd be the first one to tell you he's constantly trying to work on that balance. He's married now. I've got a fourth kid on the way to join the 3 little bundles of energy we already have. I don't know how my wife does it, but I know when I get home on Friday, I better have some energy left over for them. To, whether it's football in the basement or going outside to play, whatever it is. So I can imagine Sean's going to continue to evolve, as he's got a wonderful new wife, Veronica, and I'm sure they're going to start their own family, and he's going to have to evolve, because as we all know, that's the reality of life and being a dad. And but unfortunately, how he coaches, how he's all in, how his coaches are all in, it does take its toll. And I think, to your point, he's trying to find that balance. He's going to continue to do that, and he's a smart guy. I think he'll figure it out, over the course of time.
Kevin, one of the reasons I've picked the Vikings is the most improved team in the league, and I said, listen, this is nothing against Mike Tomlin, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll, Mike Zimmer. These are really good coaches. Yep. But there is something about offensive coaches and the sensibility and the fragility of quarterbacks. They make a lot of money, and they get a lot of criticism. And I said, I don't know if Kirk ever had a guy that he could kind of feel like he could complain, and it's okay to complain. You've quarterbacked. You know this, kind of the ups and downs of it. I mean, you have a bad Sunday, it lives with you. It is hard to get that out of your system. And I've said I think he needed an offensive coach. It's no criticism to anybody in this league. Russell Wilson and Pete struggled at the end. Belichick and Brady struggled. There is something. So when you have your relationship with Kirk, when you sat down the first time, what did you guys address? How did you connect with him?
Well, that's the word you just said at the very end. It's about connecting. I think offensive football in our league, I think it always has, but maybe more so than ever, runs through the quarterback position and runs through the comfort of the quarterback position, not the play caller. You can have a bunch of stuff drawn up on the board that looks really great and try to put it in a game plan. But I think the quarterback ownership of not only the week in and week out plan, but the comfort of being able to be themselves, how they lead, because I do think it's not a prerequisite to being successful at this position in this league. But I think just like as a head coach, just like what I try to do every single day, I think if your quarterback, is authentically being himself and he's as talented as Kirk is and gains the respect of his teammates because they see how he works, they see how he prepares, they see all he wants to do deep down inside is win football games. I think my role as a coach and really as the offensive play caller and coaches just really try to connect with him so much that he's an extension of me and I can be an extension of him and I can learn kind of what makes him tick. And then ultimately what we do on Sundays is going to be about what he's comfortable with. I think those meetings, Colin, those one-offs, those Friday afternoons, those Saturday mornings, game plan set. I may have my likes, I may have my favorites of the week, but you know what, Colin, if they don't show up on his list and when we talk things out, guess what plays aren't going to get called? They're going to be when in doubt. And by no means do we ask him to call the game or try to, put everything together for us, but we lay out the plan, we give him repetition, we give him the intent. And then it's about, finding that balance between what we think is the best way to attack an opponent, but also what we think is the best way to get him in a rhythm, keep him from getting hit, and then ultimately allow himself to feel great throughout that game, the ebbs and flows. Because what you said is right. It's the hardest position in sports, both during a game, after a game, highs and lows of a season. We're just trying to create an environment for Kirk where he can be himself on a daily basis. He can lead our group and then ultimately prepare in a way that when his best is required on Sundays, he'll be there for us time and time again. And you know what? I know how hard it is if he's not, or he hits that adversity that every NFL quarterback, no matter who you are, you hit throughout a season. I'm going to be the first guy standing there to let him know, hey, we're going to figure this out together. We're going to work through it. And I'm going to be right there with you every step of the way. And I do think that offensive, defensive coaching, I just think that's my philosophy for our whole team, but I think it magnifies itself for our quarterback.
So you have this offensive philosophy, and then you work with McVay, this powerful sort of mind. So, how do you mesh, what you would do, and then you move some Sean stuff in? I mean, is there anything you've had and you've said, shit, I'm bailing on that. I'm just taking Sean's. I like that.
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I think that my offensive philosophy, it was one of those things, Colin, where I thought a lot of things, but then I got to experience kind of walking into a great offensive staff with some really good players in LA, but a scheme that had been, they'd been running that scheme for 3 years by the time I got there, with a lot of success early on. Then it was kind of like the league, tried to do some things, different front mechanics, different personnel groups to try to talk Sean out of some of the things that they were doing early on, mainly at the line of scrimmage when they would go fast. And then really I come in during the, not, break it all down to build it back up again, but just really through a process of which assessing how we can kind of negate some of these advantages that people are trying to get by the tactics they're using to slow what we did down. And then the pass game philosophy at its core concepts, how you read things, how you tie quarterbacks' feet and eyes together. I really felt like I was able to, have an impact, have a role with that evolution that took place in 2020. But then also, I learned a lot from being around a guy like Matthew Stafford last year, seeing a veteran quarterback played 12 years in a lot of different offenses. Then he comes in, but we also still want to maintain our identity. And that was the really cool part, is from day one, watching that between Sean, myself, and Matthew. There was a lot of meetings that took place over the course of, really a year there where, my football philosophy changed, morphed, adapted based upon really high level ball between Sean, myself, and Matthew being at the driver's seat of all of that. Was a really special year, and it culminated with us winning a Super Bowl. But I think back, Colin, on all those times, talking about plays and progressions, and hey, maybe I love something and the two of them were like, no, I don't think that's great this week, or vice versa. Or maybe it was Matthew and myself banging on the table for a play and Sean saying, easy now, like, this is why it's a no for me this week, or this is why I love it this week. But ultimately, nobody ever got hurt feelings. Everybody just continued to say, you know what, we trust one another. And when it came time to kick off on Sundays, we had great plans. And like I circled back to on Kirk, player ownership and Matthew owning that thing from start to finish is what helped us not only have success, but overcome the adversity, like I talked about, that's going to come. We didn't win a game in November. We turned it over probably too much, put the defenses in tough spots. Then we had to circle back and kind of really figured out what we wanted to be late in the year and win at 9 out of our last 10 and hoist the Lombardi. So I learned so much through that experience, both the positives, but then also that adversity that really defined, what I think that team was, and really taught me a lot about the chair that I'm in now and how I can lead a football team moving forward.
I'm going to give you the name of a quarterback who you've played on the same team with or coached. And let's pretend I've never seen him play. Yep. And in a sentence, you have to describe what makes him special. I've never seen him play. Tom Brady. You were drafted by the Patriots. Tom Brady.
Elite competitor with an unbelievable way of playing this game at an incredibly high level when circumstances are not always in his favor.
Matt Stafford.
Incredible talent that to go along with a makeup that makes everybody around him better.
You were with the Niners in 2016, so that's 6 years ago. That wasn't Alex Smith. Was it Kaepernick?
Well, Colin was there. We had Colin, we had Blaine, and we had Christian Ponder. I did coach Alex in Washington.
Okay, let's go. Alex Smith, underrated.
Underrated for sure. Has the traits and qualities to do what I just talked about with Matthew, as far as make everybody around him better. But just unbelievably consistent, authentic, and successful.
Kirk Cousins.
Extremely talented, tough, durable, and a guy that I think is on his way to reaching his potential.
So I saw McVay dog cuss Goff a few times.
Yep.
And listen, Stafford, there are a couple times I've seen him, if not confront, go up to Matt and say, who has the emotional discipline to handle anything Sean says? But what about those days when you have to be Kirk? Here's one of my knocks on Kirk. Let it rip. Interceptions are okay. Like, let her rip. I do think, is it a fair criticism to say it sometimes Kirk can be a tad cautious? Is that fair?
I think it's all through the lens of, getting all the information for whatever those decisions may be. I think Kirk's got a really good sense of situational football. He's constantly pushing us around here to have practice periods every single day where there's a situation involved. What is it? It's 2 minutes. It's third down. It's low red zone. Hey, we're in a no sack mentality right here. Hey, I can be a little bit more aggressive. It is a 2 minute to go try to win a game. We're down. We need a touchdown. What I've really challenged him with since I got here was to be the same guy, be the good decision maker. I would never, ever call a talented guy like Kirk a game manager, but I think every great quarterback manages the game, if that makes sense.
Right.
And a lot of that is managing risk reward of the situation. What's the play call? What's the intent? What's the look? Do we have that premier look to take a shot? And you know what? I'm okay with the result, to your point. I'm okay with the outcome, the result. If we we wait 2 quarters to take a shot to Justin Jefferson one-on-one in a certain coverage situation, and if that doesn't work out our way, the ball maybe bounces funny. I'm okay with that. What ultimately we're hoping for, and I think Kirk completely understands that, is it's those situations where, hey, we don't pull the trigger, but why? Let's talk about it. Well, we've grown already immensely together just by having those one-on-one meetings. We meet a lot, just him and I, and we watch practice and we watch games and we watch old footage from him or the Rams or any other team, and we just absorb the situation. And there's a lot of, what would you call here? There's a lot of, well, if I called this, would you be thinking about it like that?
Right.
And don't forget about this, Colin. The beauty of the coach to quarterback system in our league is I can talk to him when he's out there between the lines, and I could say a play call, hey, we're running this, this, and this. Here's what I'm thinking here. And that can take a lot of that pressure off his plate, because it's the head coach saying it, and it's the head coach calling the play, and ultimately we can live that situation and, more importantly, the result together. And I think it's really important, once you have the process of getting to that result is right, you can't really deal with the results negatively at that point. You just got to deal with them together and say, you know what, that's exactly what we wanted. This is the shot to take. It didn't work out in our favor this time, but you know what, Colin, next time it's gonna, if we just maintain what him and I continue to build together, and forget the fact that we can rely on a lot of really talented players around him as well. And then knowing we've got a defense on the other side, we're going to ask them to pick us up from time to time. And that's how you play complementary football, which I learned from one of the best coaches, and maybe the best coach in the history of our game, and Coach Belichick. I mean, that complementary nature to your team, just because you're an offensive head coach, I better be for sure invested in our defense, special teams, and really what makes it all go for our 53 guys out there.
One more question. Every draft gives us about 1-star quarterback, and yet about 3 to 4 drafted. It's hard. Yep. It is a hard position to evaluate. I can remember Justin Herbert having critics. He's too mechanical, and I'm thinking, I'll take it. I mean, the first play in the league, you're like, he's going deep. He's up against Mahomes. If I said to you, because you're the coach now, and at some point, you're a former NFL quarterback, 3 years, 5 years, you're still there, they're going to ask your opinion. If I said, Kevin, give me the one quality. If you're sitting down at a combine interviewing these guys, or you're watching tape, give me an underrated quality so that you don't whiff if you have to draft a quarterback in the first round. What is something that people don't talk about that maybe that a lot of other coaches don't, because you played in the league at the most crucial position?
Well, I think there's really two answers, and first one was an underrated quality, or that you said just a quality, which I think the standard, because I've gone back and forth over it through the years, but deep down inside, Colin, what plagued me the most as a player was I was not naturally accurate enough throwing the football. Take arm strength, take some of the other traits. We talk a lot about fundamentals and techniques, how you deliver the football, the rhythm and timing, your ability to be twitchy and speed it up when you have to. Those are all great things. But when that rock leaves your hands, when you throw that football, you have to be in control of it at this level and be able to put it where you want it, and be able to do it in different rhythms and timings and anticipations. And that's where it leads me to the most underrated quality that I think not a lot of people talk about. And that's, the big field vision, being able to see either, and it's not always the tall guys, because I was 6'5", Colin, and a lot of times I couldn't see anything. I am 6'5". I shouldn't say was, even though I'm probably shrinking with all this stress. But I'll tell you this much. If guys can see and they can feel voids and vacancies and leverages and techniques, and he's accurate, guess what? We're going to be able to get the ball out in rhythm a lot. The pass rush may be humming, but they're not going to get home in time if you can anticipate and feel and see. And I think, you talk about Justin Herbert. I think the one thing that you couldn't see on his tape enough of in college, just by the nature of how they played, and no slight on anybody, you just didn't get to see a lot of those reps where he did that. But I'll tell you what,
Yep.
You turn on the tape now and you see him do it time and time again. And when he turns that thing loose, I mean, his head coach is a very, very, one of my best friends in this profession, Brandon Staley. And Some of our greatest conversations are when I just say, talk to me about what your guy did today. I just want to hear about it. And then vice versa. He's a fan of our guy as well. Having played against him a lot and knowing a lot about Kirk. So those would be my two things. Just a naturally accurate wake up out of bed in the morning and be able to throw the rock, which a lot of times is a gift that guys have, and it comes out and expresses itself through that evaluation process. And what you really have to be able to study is really embracing what they're being asked to do, and then what is their field vision and their pocket presence allowing them to then do that translates to our league when guys are coming over the walls at you, 4-man rush, you got 1 or 2 hitches. That's what I ask our guys. You give my guy 1 or 2 hitches. Hopefully I called something that will be open in rhythm so he can turn it loose and we can move on to the next play.
Kevin, good luck. Can't wait. The tall Sean McVay. Right?
Oh.
Listen, if you could be half the coach, you're going to win a lot of games because the guy's a total baller. I find him wildly entertaining.
He's great. He's great, man. He really is. I love him, and he's become, I owe him so much. Not only preparing me, X's and O's and all that, just as a human being. I mean, you're not going to find anybody better in this league. He's got a heart of gold, comes from a great family. He's probably going to even be a better version of himself now that he's married, and Veronica can, hopefully get him to loosen up a little bit. But I'll tell you what, man, it's no shock that you're a huge fan of his, and I think most people that I talk to definitely are.
Good luck to you, Coach.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate you guys having me on, and always appreciate any support for the Vikes.
All right, thanks, man.
Yeah, thanks, man.